The knife caught the streetlight for half a second, just long enough for Marcus Cole to see it pressed against the throat of a woman he'd never met. She was pinned against a black SUV in the alley behind Rosario's bar, one man gripping her wrists while another held the blade steady, whispering something Marcus couldn't hear. Her eyes were wide, frozen with the kind of terror that told him this wasn't a robbery. This was something worse. Every survival instinct told Marcus to stay behind the dumpster, to call 911, to let someone trained for this handle it. But then the woman made a sound, a choked, desperate whimper, and his body was already moving before his brain caught up. He grabbed a glass bottle from the recycling bin and hurled it at the man with the knife. It shattered against his shoulder, and the alley erupted into chaos. The second man released the woman and charged at Marcus. He was bigger, much bigger, but Marcus had spent 4 years as a Division I wrestler before life ripped that dream away, and muscle memory doesn't forget. He ducked under the first swing, drove his shoulder into the man's midsection, and slammed him into the brick wall. Pain exploded across Marcus's ribs, but adrenaline swallowed it. The knife wielder recovered and lunged. The blade sliced across Marcus's forearm, a hot, electric line of fire, but Marcus caught his wrist, twisted, and sent the knife clattering across the asphalt. A headbutt to the bridge of the man's nose finished it. Both attackers scrambled to their feet, blood pouring from the second one's face, and disappeared into a waiting car that screeched out of the alley before Marcus could read the plates.
You're safe now.
He turned to the woman. She was slumped against the SUV, trembling, a thin red line visible on her neck where the blade had kissed her skin. Her long, silky hair was tangled across her face. Even in the dim light, he could see she was strikingly beautiful, fair skin, high cheekbones, the kind of presence that made the dirty alley seem like the wrong setting for her entirely. "Hey," Marcus said, kneeling beside her, pressing his bleeding forearm against his shirt. "You're safe now. Can you hear me?" Her eyes focused on his face. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Then her gaze dropped to the blood soaking through his sleeve. "You're hurt," she whispered. "You're hurt because of me." "It's just a scratch," he said with a grin he absolutely did not feel. "You should see what I look like after assembling IKEA furniture." A sound escaped her, half sob, half laugh, and then her eyes rolled back and she collapsed into his arms. Marcus called 911. He stayed with her until the paramedics arrived, gave a statement to the police, and refused medical attention 3 separate times despite the gash on his forearm that clearly needed stitches. When they loaded her into the ambulance, a paramedic asked if he was family. "No," Marcus said. "I don't even know her name." He watched the ambulance disappear, wrapped his arm with a bar towel, and walked home to his studio apartment where he stitched the wound himself with a sewing kit because he didn't have health insurance. That night, lying on his second-hand mattress, staring at the water stain on his ceiling, Marcus Cole had no idea that the woman in the alley was about to turn his entire life inside out. Her name was Victoria Harrington. And her father owned half the city. 3 days passed. Marcus went back to his routine morning workouts at the park because gym memberships cost money, afternoon shifts at Rosario's, and nights spent editing photos on a laptop so old it sounded like a helicopter taking off. Photography was his passion, the thing that kept the darkness at bay since his mother passed 8 months ago. He'd been shooting the city, its forgotten corners, its lonely people, its brutal beauty, building a portfolio he couldn't afford to print. The cut on his arm was healing ugly, a jagged reminder that he'd done something either incredibly brave or spectacularly stupid. He was leaning towards stupid when she walked into the bar. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the deadest shift of the week. Marcus was wiping down the counter when the door opened and a woman stepped inside wearing a cream silk blouse and tailored pants that probably cost more than his rent. Her long dark hair fell in perfect waves past her shoulders. Her skin was luminous, her posture the kind of straight-backed elegance that came from a lifetime of knowing exactly who you were. She looked like she'd walked into the wrong building. Then her eyes found Marcus, and she smiled, a real smile, not a polished one, and he felt something shift in his chest like a key turning in a lock he didn't know existed. It's you, she said, crossing the room in quick strides. I've been looking for you for 3 days. Marcus blinked. I'm sorry, do I? And then he recognized her. Without the terror, without the tangled hair and the blood on her throat, she looked like an entirely different person. She was older than him, mid to late 30s, but it didn't diminish her beauty. If anything, it added depth, like a painting with layers you couldn't see from a distance. Alley lady, he said, and immediately regretted it. She raised one perfect eyebrow. Alley lady? In my defense, you didn't exactly introduce yourself between the knife and the fainting. The other eyebrow joined the first. I did not faint. I lost consciousness due to acute stress response. That's just fainting with a diploma, Marcus said. She stared at him. Then she laughed, a genuine, unguarded sound that made 2 regulars look up from their beers. Victoria Harrington, she said, extending her hand. He took it. Her grip was firm, her skin impossibly soft. Marcus Cole. What can I get you? We've got domestic beer, slightly less domestic beer, and something the owner calls wine, but I have my doubts. Victoria didn't let go of his hand immediately. You saved my life, Marcus. I came to say thank you. And to ask why you disappeared before anyone could get your name. He shrugged. Didn't seem like a name kind of situation. Are you okay? Fine. Superficial. She paused. The police told me you fought 2 armed men with a bottle and no weapon. They said you were bleeding and refused treatment. It was a beer bottle, actually. I have standards. Her dark eyes held his with an intensity that made the bar feel smaller. I owe you a debt I don't know how to repay. You don't owe me anything. I'm glad you're okay. That's enough. It was not enough for Victoria Harrington. If you're already hooked on Marcus and Victoria's story, hit that like button and subscribe, because what happens next is going to change everything. She came back the next day. And the day after. The first time, she sat at the bar for 2 hours, reading emails while stealing glances at him. He noticed. The second time, she brought a gift, a brand new professional camera worth more than everything he owned combined. He stared at it like she'd placed a live grenade on the bar. I can't accept this. Why not? Because it costs more than my car. Your car is a 2006 Honda Civic with a cracked windshield and a bumper sticker that says honk if you love existential dread. I had my people look into you. His jaw tightened. You had your people look into me. I needed to find you. So you ran a background check. A very respectful background check. There's no such thing. She tilted her head. You dropped out of state on a wrestling scholarship when your mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. You worked 2 jobs to pay for her treatment. She passed away 8 months ago. You live alone, no siblings, your father left when you were 7, and you spend your nights photographing the city instead of sleeping. Hearing his life summarized so clinically made something hot and defensive rise in his throat. Did your people also find out my favorite color? Blue, she said quietly. Your apartment walls are blue. Marcus picked up the camera box and set it on her side of the bar. I appreciate the gesture. But I don't need charity. It's not charity. It's gratitude. It feels like charity. Victoria studied him, then nodded. Then let me take you to dinner instead. One dinner. He should have said no. A 25-year-old bartender had no business having dinner with the daughter of Alexander Harrington, a man whose net worth had more zeros than Marcus's bank account had dollars. But there was something in her eyes, underneath the composure, that looked remarkably like loneliness. And Marcus knew loneliness like he knew his own reflection. Fine, he said. But I picked the place. He took her to a taco truck on 7th Street. She was wearing heels that cost more than the truck, standing on cracked sidewalk, holding a foil-wrapped carnitas taco while grease dripped onto her designer pants. She looked completely out of place. She also looked happier than he'd ever seen her. This is incredible. Why is this so good? Because Miguel has been perfecting these for 30 years and he puts love in the salsa. Also probably MSG. They sat on a bench overlooking the river. She asked about his photography, and he showed her shots on his phone, the old man who played chess alone every morning, neon reflections and rain puddles, light creeping through abandoned buildings. She went quiet scrolling through them. These are extraordinary, she said, her polished tone replaced by something raw. You see people. Really see them. Everyone sees people. Not everyone sees people, she said softly. Trust me. He wanted to ask what she meant. But the moment was fragile. Instead, he stole one of her napkins and wiped salsa off her chin, and she swatted his hand away, and they both laughed, and the night felt simple in a way nothing had felt simple for Marcus in a very long time. They started spending more time together. Victoria texted him dry observations about board meetings that made him snort laugh in front of customers. He sent her photos of the weirdest things he found: a pigeon wearing a doll's hat, a handwritten laundromat sign reading, "Please do not wash your enemies here." She texted at 2 a.m. one night, "Do you ever feel like you're performing a version of yourself that everyone expects, and the real you is locked in a room somewhere, watching?" He stared at that message. Then typed, "Every single day. But the room has a window. And sometimes someone looks in." 10 minutes of silence. Then, "That might be the most beautiful thing anyone's ever said to me. Don't tell anyone. I have a reputation as a sarcastic jerk to maintain." He was falling. He knew it was insane. She was 13 years older, astronomically wealthier, and moved in a world where people like him were invisible. But when she looked at him, he didn't feel invisible. He felt like the only person in the room. And that was more dangerous than any knife in any alley. Then came the night that changed everything. Victoria invited him to a charity gala at the Harrington Grand Hotel. Marcus rented a suit that fit poorly and showed up feeling like a fraud in polyester. But Victoria crossed the ballroom in a black dress that made his brain short-circuit, straightened his crooked tie, and said, "You clean up well, Taco Boy. And you look." He searched for a word. Adequate. She pinched his arm. Adequate? Fine, devastating. You look devastating. Happy? Immensely. They were slow dancing to a jazz band, Marcus trying not to think about how perfectly her hand fit against his chest, when a man approached. Tall, silver-templed, with eyes that held all the warmth of a January sidewalk. "Victoria," the man said. Not a greeting. A summoning. Victoria's entire body changed. Marcus felt it, the stiffening, the tightened fingers, the light leaving her eyes like someone flipped a switch. "Daniel," she said. The man's gaze slid to Marcus. Assessed. Dismissed. "Who's this?" "A friend." "You don't have friends, Victoria. You have obligations." Daniel smiled with teeth. "We need to talk. Your father agrees. I have nothing to say to you." Marcus stepped forward. "She said she doesn't want to talk." Daniel looked at him like noticing a stain. "I'm sorry, who are you?" "The guy telling you to walk away. In my hotel. At my event. Walk away. Now." Daniel chuckled coldly, turned to Victoria. "We'll finish this later." He walked away. Victoria exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for years. Marcus turned to her. "Who was that?" Her eyes were wet. Beneath her determination, he saw something he'd never seen: bone-deep fear. My ex-husband, she whispered. And the man who's been trying to kill me. If that revelation just gave you chills, drop a comment telling me what you think Daniel is really after, and make sure you're subscribed because what comes next will change everything. Marcus pulled her into a private corridor. She was shaking. He draped his rented jacket over her shoulders, and she clutched it like a lifeline. Start from the beginning, he said. Victoria had married Daniel Cross at 28. He was brilliant, connected. Her father had orchestrated it. Daniel's company and Harrington Global had mutual interests, and marriage was the perfect merger of power. For 2 years, she believed she was happy. Then she found discrepancies in Harrington Global's offshore accounts, transactions routed through Daniel's company into shell corporations. When she confronted Daniel, the mask came off. The first time he hit her, he apologized for an hour. The second time, he didn't bother. She was pregnant when the worst beating happened 8 weeks alone. She lost the baby on the bathroom floor while Daniel slept in the next room. She never told anyone. She packed a bag at 3 a.m. and left. The divorce was buried under enough NDAs to fill a cabinet. 6 months ago, the attacks began. Her car's brakes failed. A break-in where nothing was stolen except evidence from her personal safe. Then the alley. He wants the evidence, Victoria said flatly. If I go public, he loses everything. And my father, she stopped. Your father what? My father knows. He's complicit. If Daniel goes down, my father goes with him. So my father wants me silent. And Daniel wants to make sure I stay silent permanently. Why not go to the police? The police answer to men like my father. Every lawyer I've approached has mysteriously declined within 48 hours. She looked at him. I've been fighting alone so long that some days I forget why I'm fighting at all. He took her hand. His scarred, calloused fingers intertwined with her trembling, manicured ones. You're not alone anymore, he said. For a sarcastic jerk, she whispered, you're dangerously kind. Don't tell anyone. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus became her shield. Victoria's penthouse was beautiful and sterile, white marble and sharp edges. He brought color, a potted plant. Her name is Deborah. Don't overwater her, a ridiculous taco-shaped throw pillow, a framed photograph of the sunrise over the bridge. She'd read while he edited photos, their legs tangled on the couch. He cooked his mother's recipes. She taught him about wine. This costs $300. It tastes like angry grapes. Philistine. A Philistine who makes a mean carbonara. He taught her pool at Rosario's, standing behind her, guiding her arm, acutely aware of her scent and warmth. You're too close, she murmured, not moving away. You're aiming wrong, he said, voice rougher than intended. Am I? She turned her head. Their faces were inches apart. The bar dissolved. Victoria. Marcus. This is a terrible idea. The worst. Neither moved. Then a regular shouted for a beer, the moment shattered, and they stepped back breathing like they'd run a sprint. But the danger hadn't forgotten them. Marcus was walking home at midnight when a black car pulled alongside him. Daniel Cross sat in the back seat. Get in. I don't take rides from strangers. We're not strangers, Marcus. Daniel held up his phone. On the screen was a photograph of Marcus's mother's grave with the fresh flowers Marcus had placed that morning. Beautiful cemetery. The kind of place you'd hate to see disturbed. Marcus's blood went cold. Walk away from Victoria. She's not your class. She's not your problem. She's not my problem, Marcus said, voice steady despite shaking hands. She's my friend. And if you go near her or my mother's grave, I will burn everything you have to the ground and use your money to light the match. Daniel studied him. Brave. Stupid, but brave. The window closed. Marcus didn't sleep. He sat in the dark, the weight of what he'd entered settling like concrete. A bartender with $53 threatening a man who could buy city blocks. But underneath the terror was something fiercer. The same feeling from the alley when he heard Victoria cry out. The feeling that some things are worth fighting for even when you can't win. Especially when you can't win. He told Victoria about Daniel's threat. She didn't panic. Something shifted, fear layered with steely resolve. She walked to her bedroom and returned with a metal briefcase containing documents, flash drives, photographs, years of evidence. Every fraudulent transaction. Every shell company. Every bribe. Enough to put Daniel in prison for 20 years and my father for 10. Why haven't you used it? Her voice cracked. Because the moment I go public, I lose my father forever. He's a terrible man, but he's still my father. And some stupid, broken part of me still wants him to choose me over the money. If this story has you holding your breath, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because the next few minutes will take it away completely. Marcus made his move. He reached out to Elena Vasquez, an investigative reporter who'd been trying to crack Harrington Global for years. He gave her breadcrumbs to start her own investigation. If I publish this, Elena said, they'll come after you. They already have. She was in. But Daniel moved faster than anyone expected. Marcus's phone rang at 6 a.m. on Thursday. Victoria's number, but Alexander Harrington's voice, cold, measured. Mr. Cole. My daughter is with me. She will remain with me. Forget her name. The line went dead. Marcus was at the Harrington estate within the hour. Iron gates, security cameras, guards who looked like they bench-pressed sedans. He couldn't get within 100 yards. He called Victoria. No answer. He texted, if you can hear me, I'm here. I'm not leaving. 3 hours passed. He sat on the curb in worn jeans, staring at the gate. At 4 p.m., his phone buzzed. Garden Wall. East Side. 11 p.m. He was there at 10:30. Victoria appeared on the other side of the stone wall, eyes red. You have to stop. My father will bury you. Not metaphorically. I don't care. You should care about your life, your future. What future? The only future I care about involves you being safe and free. She was crying silently. Why do you care this much? You barely know me. He pressed his palm against the cold stone. She did the same on the other side. I know you send me essays at 2 a.m. I know you eat tacos like they're a religious experience. I know you pretend to hate my jokes but laugh when I'm not looking. I know you lost something that broke your heart and you're still standing, which makes you the bravest person I've ever met. His voice dropped. And I know I'm in love with you, Victoria. Hopelessly, stupidly, inconveniently in love with you. A broken laugh escaped her. Then, softly, I'm in love with you too. And it terrifies me. Good. We can be terrified together. The age difference is a number. The wealth difference a bigger number, granted. I'm broken. Hi, broken. I'm Marcus. We've met. She laughed, watery and beautiful. You impossible man. I prefer charmingly persistent. Elena Vasquez published at 9 a.m. Monday a detailed exposé on Harrington Global's offshore fraud, implicating Daniel Cross as the architect and Alexander Harrington as knowing participant. By noon, it was the top story in the country. By evening, the FBI had opened an investigation. By nightfall, Daniel Cross was arrested at the airport with a one-way ticket to a country without extradition. But Alexander Harrington's reaction no one predicted. Victoria called Marcus at 10 p.m. "My father wants to see you." Sounds like a trap. It's not. Just come. Please. Marcus found Alexander in his study, a vast room lined with books, looking 20 years older. The titan who owned half the city looked small. "Human. My lawyers tell me I'll face significant charges. My board is removing me." He paused. "I spent my life building something I told myself was for Victoria. A legacy." His voice faltered. "The truth is I sacrificed my daughter for that empire. I knew what Daniel was. I knew what he did to her. And I chose the money." Silence. "She came to me after she lost the baby. Told me everything. And I told her to go back to him. I told her she was being dramatic." He put his face in his hands. "What kind of father says that?" Marcus thought of his own mother, how she'd worked 3 jobs, held his hand through every failure, loved him so fiercely that death couldn't sever it. And he felt something unexpected for this broken man, compassion. "The kind of father who still has time to change," Marcus said quietly. Alexander looked up, eyes wet. "She loves you. Take care of her. Better than I did." "That won't be hard," Marcus said. It wasn't cruel. It was honest. Victoria was in the hallway. She'd heard everything. Marcus pulled her into his arms, and she buried her face in his chest, and they stood there while the empire crumbled around them. But they didn't crumble. They held. 6 months later, Marcus had a photography exhibition in a small gallery. The wine was cheap. Victoria winced with every sip but drank it anyway. The show was called Scene Portraits of Ordinary People in Extraordinary Moments. The centerpiece was a photograph of a woman on a bridge at dawn, hair caught in wind, face turned to the camera with an expression so layered that 3 visitors cried looking at it. Victoria stood beside him wearing jeans and his old flannel shirt. "Most men save a woman and expect a thank you card. You tried to give me a camera worth more than my education. Which you refused. I have principles. You have stubbornness disguised as principles." He grinned. "Same thing." She straightened his collar. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For seeing me. When I'd forgotten there was anything left to see." He cupped her face. "You were always worth seeing. Every version. Even Alley Lady." She laughed, and he kissed her, and somewhere someone whistled, and the cheap wine tasted like champagne. Daniel Cross received 18 years. Alexander Harrington got 4 after cooperating. He wrote Victoria weekly. She didn't read the first 30 letters. She read the 31st. Cried for 2 days. Then wrote back. Marcus never became rich or famous. But his photographs appeared in magazines, then galleries, then a book he dedicated, "For Mom, who taught me to see. And for Victoria, who taught me to stay." Victoria started a foundation for domestic violence survivors, fierce and relentless. They argued about the thermostat, his ancient laptop, her alphabetized spice rack versus his arrangement by vibes. She stole his flannels. He named her houseplants. They built something neither his world nor hers but entirely new. One night, Victoria traced his faded scar. "Does it ever scare you? How different everything would be if you'd stayed behind that dumpster. Every day. But then I wouldn't have you. And Deborah the plant would be dead because you overwater everything." She hit him with a pillow. He pulled her close. Outside, the city hummed, indifferent to 2 people who'd found the thing they'd stopped believing existed, home. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs a reminder that courage matters, and subscribe so you never miss a story that stays with you. Because here's the truth Marcus learned in that alley: you don't have to be powerful to change someone's life. You just have to show up. And sometimes, showing up is the bravest thing you'll ever do.